Seems like now that we've been talking a little bit more in depth about the specifics with the budget cuts, education seems to be taking priority. Are we forgetting about health and human services in this conversation?
Well, there's a lot of, the old squeaky wheel gets greased. There's been a lot of squeaking coming from the education community. What a lot of people don't realize, in my opinion, is it is a battle between spending money on education and spending money on Medicaid. Because what we've seen historically is that as the Medicaid requirements, and it is an entitlement, so it's a requirement, this legislature has, as I said, very few choices. So as that spending goes up, education spending comes down. In 2000, between 2000 and 2007, there was a direct correlation, 5% more for Medicaid, 5% less for education. So if the people of this state want to spend more in education, they better start looking at doing something about Medicaid. The projections for another $14 to $15 billion next legislative session would equate to 4.5-cent sales tax increase to pay for it if it were done just by sales tax increase. So that money's got to come from somewhere. 4.5 cents would put us at the highest sales tax by far in the nation, even higher than Illinois, which seems to be breaking all kinds of records on taxing its people. But it's, you've got to either reform or you got to come up with a bunch of more money.
Which one's more important in your take of it, Medicaid or education?
I think both there's room for improvement in both, but the legislature and the local school districts have a lot of flexibility as far as dealing with the education reform. There are some exciting things happening in education with technology that producing better outcomes in learning, much less expensive cost, and so there's a lot on the horizon if we can push us on up into the 21st century and start utilizing the technology, online and distance learning that probably people of my generation think, well, that's crazy, but it's working and it's delivering better outcomes. So we need to look at those innovations and allow technology to help us with the education budget. But with Medicaid, it's got to start with a wholesale reform. You've got to get back to the drawing board and start all over. And our research shows that not only should we do that, but we can do it, delivering more for more people for less tax money.
Some of the lawmakers have been talking about shifting the cost or shifting some spending or cuts. If we were to do that and try to save more money for Medicaid, where might you see in the budget that we could do that?
Well, one thing that we're going to be proposing is to begin taking money away from the Children's Health Insurance Program, from CHIP. And again, that's going to be a tough vote, but the listeners need to understand that you're either going to pay for health insurance for children who have parents who can provide insurance for them, and they're for upper incomes versus very poor people who are on Medicaid who don't have the resources, and many of them are in the age blind and disabled category. That's where all the money goes. They don't have the ability to pay for them. So it's a hard choice to prioritize, I understand, but that's where the decision point is probably going to come down to. Are we going to pay for people who are well above poverty, or are we going to pay for those who are below poverty, who have very serious needs and are unable to care for themselves?
Are there any areas outside of health and human services and Medicaid that you see we should cut more than what has been proposed so far?
There are more agencies that we believe can be trimmed, more programs that can be eliminated. There are still some cuts, but and we believe that this is the session during this time to reduce the footprint of government, because it's going to mean if we can reduce the size and the scope of government now, it will make the next legislative session that much easier to deal with. We can't in the state kick the can down the road like they're doing at the federal level. We don't print money. We can't go into debt. We have to balance the budget every time. A lot of people point back to 2003 and point to the cuts and point to this quick recovery that was made, but what the state is looking at right now is very different from what we were seeing in 2003. The economy is beginning to turn around, but recovery is very slow. Last session, or last time we faced this in 2003, we were already seeing significant signs of recovery, and the economy did bounce back. We were also aware that we were getting additional money from Congress to pay for Medicaid, so we knew that that money was coming in. This time, instead of more money, we're looking at more requirements. We're looking at more cost to the state by a significant amount of money. And so the whole circumstances are opposite from one another from 2003 to 2011. It's one reason we think that we need to protect that rainy day fund, because it may be raining now, as the proponents of spending the money are saying. We agree it's raining now, but we believe that there's going to be a real downpour in 2013 and that we need to protect our state's economy.
Do you see any lawmakers specifically, any one lawmaker that will actually try to use that rainy day fund for the next biennium?
There are a lot of lawmakers who are already proposing that, and they've already taken a portion of it, as you are probably aware, to pay for the current biennium deficit. So they've taken up to $3.2 billion of the $9.7. And there are already calls to, let's spend the rainy day fund to balance the budget. Under other circumstances, we might not be so strongly opposed, but we believe that in order for the state to continue on this strong economic path that has provided jobs and thus a low unemployment rate in our state, in spite of the thousands and thousands of new residents that we have, we've still maintained a lower than national average unemployment rate. As a matter of fact, Texas has created 1/5 of the jobs in the entire nation. And that's just during this period of time, and that's pretty extraordinary. And it's because we're a low tax, low regulation, strong court system state, and so we're very attractive to businesses, we're very attractive to families, and we want to keep it that way. Not only for the people who are moving here, but for the ones who have, 6 and 7 generation Texans. We want to keep our strong economy and be the light for the rest of the nation. So there are tough decisions, but we believe there are great rewards for reducing the size and scope of government right now. So this is the time to take advantage of the pressures that cause those hard decisions to be made, and to make them now and enjoy the fruits of that over the next 5-10 years.